Hey guys, it's Lion here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're talking about Transformers 1, the latest in the Transformers universe. It's, I guess it's supposed to be a prequel, but I guess it's not. I don't know if it's connected to the rest of the movies or not. I don't think it really matters. I think that this can stand on its own. It doesn't really affect anything, but it does give us a deeper appreciation of where our characters come from, right? So Transformers 1 is an animated movie. It came out last week, I think. Transformers 1 did come out 9/18, I think. So last Friday. And I watched it 9/24, so on Tuesday. And I wanted to do a review as soon as I got out of the theater, but I had other stuff to do, so I couldn't get around to it, right? But the movie was directed by Josh Cooley. One of the notable producers was Michael Bay. And music was done by Brian Tyler, and he did a great job with this. I think that the music is pretty good. There are some bits that kind of feel like they call back to some of the Michael Bay movie bits of soundtrack, right? Like it wasn't Arrival on Earth, but it was a different one. And there is some Michael Bay verse inspirations here, so it's pretty cool. In terms of notable talent, we have Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee, and Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron. And I think a lot of people were upset about the fact that Peter Cullen was not here and that they were having Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, but they did a great job. I think that it was phenomenal. Like, all of the voice acting was actually really great, even though it was like a star-studded cast instead of like a voice actor cast. But they did a great job. Of course, this is based on Hasbro's Transformers, and that is made very clear at the beginning of the movie. And this is a Transformers Cybertron character exclusive story. Like, there are no humans whatsoever. This is most similar to the beginning of Bumblebee, right? Those first couple minutes where they're doing war on Cybertron. It's basically a prequel to that kind of storytelling, right? To that kind of point in the history of the Transformers. And it tells us the origin story of Optimus Prime, of Megatron, and where all these characters come from. And most of the movie, we actually call Optimus and Megatron by their original names, right? By their, I guess you could call it birth names. Orion Pax, as who turns into Optimus Prime, and D16, who eventually becomes Megatron, right? We also get to see Alita 1 and B127, or Bumblebee, alongside a bunch of other characters as they go through their lives and become the characters that we know. It basically turns out that Orion and D16 were miners, and that there was this cast of robots on Cybertron who were miners who did not have transformation cogs, which is why so many characters in the cast have these weird holes in their chests, right? Orion Pax turns out to be a bit of a wacky, kind of oddball kind of dreamer. He's someone that isn't really satisfied with his life. He knows that there's more to him and to everyone around him, and so he wants to constantly chase after adventure and betterment of himself and his brethren. And he happens to have all of the qualities that make him Optimus Prime, but portrayed through a more energetic kind of vibe. Whereas D16 is kind of more of an older brother type figure to Orion Pax. He doesn't come off as like evil like Megatron does, but he definitely has a bit of like anger to himself throughout the story. And Optimus Prime, or Orion Pax, eventually manages to get himself and D16 in trouble. They end up having to find themselves going to the surface of Cybertron, which is dangerous, and unravel this crazy fucked up kind of situation that they didn't know was happening. They meet with Alpha Trion. They manage to get cogs back, and they can transform now, which is not a spoiler because it's on the trailer. And this dark secret that was unveiled to them is what makes D16 start going down that path of evil, that path of deception and corruption that we get to see him have as Megatron, right? And I found that the transition between D16 into Megatron was splendidly done. Like, Brian Tyree Henry's voice was more or less the same throughout the whole movie, but he managed to really encompass that hurt and anger and sadness and growth from young man to adult, to angry adult man, perfectly. And he manages to encompass that so well. And there's almost like chills you get at some points when he starts talking, and you get to see that transition into Megatron, into what will become Megatron, and it's very good. And the way that the drama unfolds there is phenomenal. I think that they did a great job with this fall of D16 into Megatron. That was well done. And this kind of feeling of betrayal that eventually both Orion Pax and D16 feel towards each other, right? Now that they are Optimus Prime and Megatron. And it's really interesting because it almost feels like this is a movie about oppression and about overcoming that oppression and being gaining autonomy, right? I mean, that's where the name Autobot comes from, according to the movie. And it really portrays these two characters as two sides of the same coin. One of them is eternally hopeful and thinks that even though violence is necessary, it is ultimately not about that. It's ultimately about finding a way to restructure everything peacefully. That would be Orion Pax, Optimus Prime. And then there's D16, who has righteous anger that eventually turns into evil and revenge, right? Into corruption and deception and sadness. And they manage to make these characters and their traits really, really show off really, really well. Their enemies are some of the people that are in charge. We get Arachnia, who really doesn't fit with the rest of these characters, honestly. Like, all of them seem to be Gen 1, G1 characters. And then she's just there, even though she's like from Beast Wars. And Sentinel Prime, that works. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sentinel Prime is also evil in the Michael Bay-verse, so that's understandable. And the Quintessons. And it's interesting because they're weird. So if I remember correctly, the Quintessons are the ones that kind of have like the bug-looking Transformers, right? And in this case, they're not Transformers. They're just kind of like biological entities. And it's pretty interesting, and it looks really cool. Let's see, what else? Those characters are pretty good as well. They almost come off as as characters from The Boys, which is really interesting and really odd to say, but it works. Trust me. We get some side characters, right? We have Elita 1 and B1227. And Elita 1 is kind of like this girl boss kind of character, and I actually like her, and I thought that there was this interaction between her and Orion that was really, really great, and kind of cements her as his second in command, which I think is great. And Bumblebee does come off kind of weird. He is kind of like this person that has like fallen to madness due to being exiled into the lower floors of Cybertron, and he just kind of comes off as someone that has not interacted with anyone in a long time, and so he's just excited to do it. And it is a little bit annoying, but it's also kind of like fitting, and it ultimately doesn't get so annoying that you get like mad at the movie. It just manages to get right before there, and I think they handled that really well. A lot of the jokes he makes are pretty great as well. They're pretty funny, even if they are pretty simplistic, right, compared to some of the other jokes. But they managed to do quite a good job there at having that kind of levity without really killing any of the emotional tone of the movie. So this was great. I really, really loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. I would say this is a 8.5 out of 10, mostly because I don't like the way the faces looks on these Transformers. I don't know how they could be better, but their faces are really weird because they're like too real and also too mechanical looking at the same time in a way that is not satisfying to me. And I don't necessarily love the CGI style that they went with, right? I don't hate it. I think it looks good, but it's not my favorite. And if I don't necessarily like what I'm looking at, that makes it hard to watch a movie, right? And so the 8.5 out of 10 is more or less exactly just because the story is that good, where the points lost are mostly just because I don't like how it visually has like a distinct, like the style that it has visually is not one I like. It is distinct and valuable, but it's not one that works for my personal aesthetic choices, right? For my personal aesthetic preferences. And so that's really the only complaint I have. It's mostly the faces. The way that the transformation works and the way that the animation is really fluid about some of the battle scenes is phenomenal, right? So they did a great job. It's just not visually appealing to me, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Transformers here. On Transformers 1, let me know what you thought down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys like and subscribe, and let me know what you thought down below. And thank you guys once again. See you guys later.